If you are taking your bank deposits coming from your payment processors and going to the QuickBooks feeds and simply categorizing them to revenue, you're missing out on seeing the full picture of your business's revenue and expenses. Here's why. Payment processors, whether it's Shopify, Amazon, Square, PayPal, you name it, they want a piece of the pie, and they are actually taking a percentage of your money before giving it to you. So if you record the part that they give you as revenue, it's not actually the true revenue amount that the customer paid. If you would like to see the full revenue that your company is making and be able to track the payment processing fees so that you can keep an eye on them and know when it's time to make strategic moves, this video is for you. Let's get started. All right, so here we are in QuickBooks, and what I'm going to show you is how to use a clearing account and a monthly journal entry to record your revenue and the payment processor fees for a payment processor instead of just adding the deposits in your bank feed to sales. So for example, if you get $200 in, that's not really the amount that you sold to a customer. That's the amount minus any PayPal fees or Square fees or whatever processor you used. So if you want to faithfully track what's actually going on, what we'll do instead is create a clearing account on the balance sheet. So to do this, you're going to go to Chart of Accounts, New, name your clearing account however you want. You should have a clearing account for every payment processor that you use because this helps you keep track of them and also see if anything's up. If you have a really high number in one of the clearing accounts on your balance sheet, that could be a key off that maybe something's not quite right there, and it would help you know where to investigate to fix that. If you have all of your processors in one clearing account, it can make things pretty complicated. Okay, so when you create this clearing account, make it as a bank, and it can be a cash on hand detail. And then just leave yourself a little note in case you ever forget what it's for. All you have to do is click save. All right, now we've got a clearing account. The other thing that you're going to want to set up is an expense account for processing fees if you don't have that already. So I'm gonna name this processing fees. I'm gonna make it an expense. And then I usually, for fees, I'll usually do, I know this says legal and professional fees, but that's more for like accountants and lawyers. So I'll usually do other business expenses or general administrative expenses. All right, so now that we've got those, we're ready to save deposits to the clearing account and also do our journal entry. So once you have these set up throughout the month, you can actually save the deposits that come in. Instead of categorizing them to income, you're actually going to categorize them to the clearing account that you created. And it's best practice to include a vendor name. So for these deposits, you could just include the vendor name PayPal or Square or wherever it's coming from. So we're gonna save 200 for July. Now let's go take a look at the balance sheet so I can kind of explain what the clearing account is. Basically, a clearing account is just a holding account for those deposits until you get to the end of the month and you can enter your journal entry. It's not a real bank account. You're not actually moving the money anywhere. It's just a place that you can put those transactions coming through your bank feed. 1 to 7:30. And there's our clearing account for PayPal. So this is under the asset section of the balance sheet, and you'll notice that because we assigned the deposit here, it's actually a negative amount. When we make our journal entry, we're going to balance it against this account, which should net this out to zero. In real life, when there's a lot of transactions coming in, your clearing account probably won't zero out at the end of the month, but you should be able to look in your payment processor software and see how much money they owed you still at the end of the month, how much customers had paid but still hadn't been deposited in your bank, and that number should match your clearing account number. As a quick note, the clearing account will only show you what's still owed to you by the payment processor at the end of the month after you've entered this journal entry. And I'll show you how to do the journal entry right now, but I just wanted to let you know that the journal entry is based off of the payment processor's report of the money earned, which means it may not have hit your bank account yet. All right, now let's get back to it. Okay, so once you get to the end of the month and you've put all your deposits in this clearing account, it's time to make the journal entry. You can actually set this up as a template and then use it every month, and that'll just make it easier on you. But this first time, what you'll do is the journal date entry will always be the last day of the month that you're doing the entry for. So like if I'm in September and I'm doing the August books, then it would be August 31st. And right now I'm doing the July book, so it's July 31st. And then I always just do a date and what it is, just so that if I look back at the journal numbers, I can figure out what's going on. Okay, so before you get started with the journal entry, you need to gather the information, go to your payment processor and find their report section online, and then generate a report for the previous month. I usually like to save these as a PDF just because it's easier to go back in your records and find that than it is to have to log in again to your payment processor and find the information that way. Totally up to you. Once you have the total sales and the total fees for the month, you're ready to move on and start entering it into the journal entry. So here's how. Okay, so the basic setup of this, and this may change slightly depending on what payment processor you're using, but the gist of it is you need to record the total sales, you need to record the payroll processing fees, payment processing fees, not payroll, and then you need to record to the clearing account. So the sales are always going to be a credit because they're on the profit and loss and their income. If you haven't done a lot of bookkeeping courses or you don't understand that, the debits and credits have to equal in accounting, and it can be a little complicated to understand, but all you need to know for these journal entries is that sales, revenue, income, any of that would go on your profit and loss would be entered as a credit, and expenses, money leaving your business that you're paying for, are always debits. So any expenses on the profit and loss are a debit. So sales are going to be credits and expenses are going to be debits. So we're going to put in the sales amount, which we're going to say was $210. And then we're going to come put in the fee amount, which we just created an account for. And we're going to say that was $10. And then we'll put the difference between the debit and credit column into the clearing account, because in order to publish the journal entry, and basically a basic tenet of accounting is that your debits and credits have to match. So here's our clearing account, and it goes ahead and auto-populates it. Since we're going to make this a template, I do like to have descriptions just so you know what's going on. So I'll go ahead and enter those, and then every time you copy this journal entry for the next month, you can just update the month name. This just helps you if you're going through your profit and loss or any of the registers of any of your charts of accounts. You can just see at a glance what it is. All right, so now that we've got this, we're gonna make it recurring so we always have it in the future. Just change the type to an unscheduled type, and that will keep it as a template for you, and you can name it whatever you want that helps you know what it is. Once you save this template, you can always access it now every month under recurring transactions right here. All right, so we've posted this journal entry, and now if we come refresh the balance sheet, we should see this clearing account go to 0, clearing account 0, and if we were to go see the profit and loss, instead of seeing 200 in sales, which was the deposit that came through to our bank, we'll actually see the amount that was purchased by the client and the fees taken out. So 210 was the total revenue, and we've got our processing fees also showing. So obviously this is a very small amount, and you're probably wondering, like, what's the big deal? It's just $10. When you have a high volume of transactions and you only just put the bank deposit as sales, you're missing out on seeing so much more of the business picture. Being able to track processing fees is what allows you to know how much money you're paying to receive your money. So it helps you know if you need to change processors, if there's anything you can do bulk-wise or subscription-wise to get that processing fee down. It just helps you have more insight into your business revenue. And just like that, you know exactly what you need to do to properly classify revenue and avoid a mistake that a ton of small business owners end up making by just categorizing the bank deposit. So this was a very broad, just like bird's eye view of how to handle this. There are very specific videos out there per payment processor that can help you break down how you need to enter journal entries depending on what payment processor you have. I'm going to hopefully be making some more videos in the future, kind of by payment processor. But until then, you should definitely check out the Mavens over at Mavency. Their YouTube channel is super helpful, and I'll link to it in the bio below. But they have a specific video on Shopify, and it's a lot more extensive of a journal entry because there are refunds and gift cards and all sorts of fees taken out. So that'll be a good one to get started with. And then if you have any questions, make sure that you leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that this video at least gave you one step you can take to start tracking your revenue even better.